never fear, faithful HoopSpeak Live visitors. We have our next guest who wrote a really awesome column, I guess a feature profile on Erik Spoelstra's trip to the Philippines. Let's bring him on now. I'm going to get his name right. Rafe Bartholomew, what's happening, man?
Hi, Beckley. It's great to see you.
Hey, it's Beckel. The Y is silent.
Oh, what's going on, guys?
Hey, man. So let's jump right into it. First off, I saw a tweet exchange between you and Jonah. You guys were saying that you guys haven't been sleeping. You've been working your butts off at Grantland. What's going on over there?
I was actually accused of humble bragging for doing that, and I think it was rightfully. But you know, it's just I know Jonah is writing every day on the baseball. Jonah Carey is writing every day on the baseball, playoff races, and starting tomorrow the baseball playoffs. So, I mean, I'm surprised that he sat down and read 6,000 words on Erik Spoelstra's trip to the Philippines in the middle of an NBA lockout.
Yeah, well, that is Ethan knows a thing or two about humble brags, but that's a pretty good one. So what was it like? So you obviously know a ton more about the Philippines than Spoelstra does, but Spoelstra looks like he would know his way around the Philippines. Hey, who do we have in the background here? We have a site. What's up, man? Yeah, anyway, what was it like being, looking obviously foreign, but actually being the guide for the foreigner in the Philippines?
Well, it's not that out of the ordinary for me now. I mean, I lived there for 3 years when I was working on Pacific Rim's the book, and got pretty used to sticking out in a very major way, being, far whiter and paler and taller than most of the people around me. People staring at me or screaming, sort of in the Philippines when it's a remnant of the U.S. military bases that were there until the early 90s. People, when they see a white person, they'll say, "Hi, Joe," like G.I. Joe. I mean, all of those things are sort of, every day for me now. But it was cool being there with Spoelstra because I'd seen a lot of, not a lot, but a handful of NBA athletes or coaches come through, and it's always sort of just business as usual for them. They're there as part of a shoe tour or on behalf of the NBA, and they're passing through, they're happy to be there, but it's not really that important to them, whereas Spoelstra really cared. Like, everything we passed, like if I was riding on the bus with them, he'd ask me, why are they doing that? Have you ever rode one of those buses? Did you ride a jeepney? Can you fit inside a tricycle sidecar? I mean, he was really, really fascinated with the experience, you have living in the country.
That's awesome. And this is also significant because Spoelstra has a reputation both from the way he interacts with the media and the way that he just appears on the sideline as like a basketball robot. And almost, at the beginning of the season, people were wondering, is he too meek to handle these superstars? How cool is it seeing him so loose and kind of open?
It was really cool. I mean, I had very little experience with him, prior to that, or none really, except from what I had heard from people in the Philippines and some other true hoop writers like Kevin Arnovitz had mentioned stuff to me about him. And I had heard through the grapevine that at least 5 to 8 people had given him copies of my book and tried to make him read it in the middle of last season. I also had this impression that he was going to be a pretty reserved guy, that he's just sort of doesn't say a lot, that he's focused on basketball and the Heat and almost nothing else, 23 hours a day, and I don't know what he does the rest of the time.
He has to use the bathroom sometimes.
So it was cool to see, definitely, him with, sort of his inner circle, his assistant coaches, his longtime friends, his sister, and his extended family, just, really, hanging out, and also when not just when I talked to him, but when I saw him talk to anyone, he was he was more interested in them usually than they were in him, which is pretty impressive given he's the NBA coach, and
Right.
9 out of 10 of the other people were just sort of, I don't know, people who aren't NBA coaches. All of them weren't. Um, that's one of the things that really makes him popular in the Philippines. He's open to everyone no matter where they come from, and he really talks to them as if they're, as far as I can tell, he sees everyone as his equal, which he could probably get away with not doing as the head coach of the Miami Heat.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know if you had this same impression. When I got to go to a game in Miami and went to the presser afterwards, and I was struck by his kind of like in-person swag. Like, he's a very smooth, kind of cool dude, and I don't think that comes across. What was it? Were you struck by that? Did you expect that?
Yeah, no, I didn't really expect it, and it was you could tell right away. I think I arrived in Manila on a Thursday morning and went straight to this high school that I wrote about, where he was just mobbed by what would look like, I don't know, 1,500 kids. And after that, they had a little press conference in one of the classrooms, which was really more like a chance for the teachers to stop, like, holding the kids back and take their own pictures with Spoelstra. But, someone introduced me to him for the first time there, and he was like, how'd a white guy like you get out here for so long? He was just sort of so he like you said, he had this sort of really easygoing but also welcoming air. This like he seems like somebody you want to hang out with.
Yeah. All right. My last question before I turn it over to Zach Harper is: you're a big part of the Grantland pickup team. How are you guys doing? I know you had a rough patch at the start. You guys picking up some W's?
Well, our season, if you want to call it that, kind of stalled out after our 4-game series. It was a best of 7, I guess, against the Los Angeles Clippers sales staff, and you could say that we got swept. We only came with 4 players because one of our editors went down with a knee injury a couple weeks before then, and we had to play with one of the Clippers guys, and it was rough. I mean, it was our first time playing on an NBA court. We got to play in Staples, which was amazing, but it was our first time being on that kind of court with that kind of depth perception, and most of us aren't that great shooters to begin with, so it was rough, and so, you may actually have heard that we sent out some feelers looking for a point guard, and the name Beckley Mason came up. So, negotiations may still be on the table.